We're gonna try and make some gin that doesn't exist anymore.
I just said, yes, man, right away, anything.
So years ago I stopped at a distillery in Texas and got this bottle of Moody June from the Bone Spirits distillery, and it is really good. Sadly, that distillery shifted its operation to making bulk spirits to sell to other distilleries, rather than making bottles of cool craft spirits. This thing is very citrus forward, a lot of lemon and lime on it, and I was never a really big gin drinker until I had this stuff. We're gonna try and recreate this. I've never made gin before, not even hypothetically. So I did some poking around online and talked to my buddy Jesse, and also talked to my friend Brewbird over at her channel. If you don't know Brewbird, she went to school for distilling and brewing, and she's worked as a brewer and distiller all over the world. So I talked with her about creating my own recipe, and I came up with a pretty good recipe that I think is going to be on the lighter side, not really resinous, but a little bit more aromatic, a little brighter, a little more citrusy. And one of the things that Jesse covered in one of his videos was the difference between macerating your botanicals and infusing them. Macerating means soaking your botanicals in the alcohol and then distilling all of that together to get your gin, versus infusion, which is basically putting all the botanicals in a gin basket and letting the clean, neutral spirit vapor pass through the gin basket. What he found was that some flavors come out great with infusion and some great with maceration. And he was thinking about testing a combination of those, but he hasn't really gotten around to it, and we're gonna give it a try. At least with the tools that my Liquor Fairy has available, which is exclusively pot stills. Not ideal, but still doable. So the first thing that we need in order to get started is a whole bunch of neutral spirit. So with my Liquor Fairy being limited to pot still, I used my pot still method for making vodka. Rather than cram all those details in here, I'm gonna just go ahead and point you to this video right up here. It is entirely possible to make a very clean, very neutral spirit with a pot still. Just takes a little bit more work than a reflux still. Not to blow my own horn, but the results are pretty great. And because of time constraints, my Liquor Fairy had to actually use 3 stills, all running at almost the same time, in order to do 2 stripping runs and then a purifying run. The Liquor Fairy was very busy for about 19 hours. And the next thing we need to do is pick a recipe. Brewbird's video, she's got a link to an ingredient chart that gives you ranges for ingredients and what kind of flavors they contribute to your gin. So I just thought about what I was aiming for and picked my ingredients accordingly. I'm gonna just go ahead and point down here so that you check the video description for the recipe. I think I've got 10 or 11 ingredients in my recipe. The recipe down in the video description is going to be for 1 liter of high proof spirit. So for every liter of high proof, you need to increase the size of your recipe. So I did it 4 times because I had 4 liters. So what I chose to do was basically to macerate all of the hard botanicals. Anything that's dried, like your juniper berries, your herbs, stuff like that. The orris root. A lot of folks use angelica seeds. You can also use orris root for the same purpose, got a little different flavor. It acts as a fixative, so it holds the flavors into your ethanol. It's my understanding that orris root is a little bit more appropriate for your lighter bodied gins than angelica seeds, so that's why I went with this. But again, recipe down in the video description with links to the stuff that's going to be harder to find. So that's all getting macerated in our gin, and then we're going to take our citrus peels and infuse those in the vapor path by hanging a little cheesecloth baggie in the vapor column. If you have an attachment for your still, like a gin basket or something like that, that's going to work better, then definitely do that. But this works when you don't have those extra pieces. So once you have your macerated neutral spirit with all the botanicals in it, right before you run it through the still, you need to proof it down to about 40%. So I just used some plain old tap water and proofed that down to about 38%. And then I gave all that to the Liquor Fairy. So the Liquor Fairy took the zest from 1 lemon and 1 lime and put that into a little cheesecloth baggie and tied that to a string and suspended that in the vapor path in the still. That way your vapor passes up through that mesh bag before it exits to the condenser, and it's going to pick up all that flavor from the volatile oils in the citrus and hopefully give us a much brighter finish. Because one of the things that Jesse mentioned was when you drop the orange peel into your maceration to let it soak with the other botanicals, you get kind of a marmalade, kind of a cooked orange peel flavor. And with the infused one, you get a brighter orange. And that's what I'm looking for, fresh and bright citrus. Once I gave all that to the Liquor Fairy, they spent about 6.5 hours running 2 gallons of liquid. That's a long run for that tiny amount. So before we get to the blend, I just want to thank today's sponsor, Into the AM. They are the coolest t-shirt company I've ever come across. I've been wearing their stuff for a couple of years now because 1, the graphics are amazing, and 2, they are the most comfortable shirts that I own. Also, the underwear are surprisingly comfortable too. These shirts fit so well that when you gain about 10 pounds because you're making a lot of baked goods over the holidays, they still fit really well. So I'm happy for that because damn, my pants are tight. So if you're interested in getting some t-shirts from Into the AM, check out the link down in the video description and make sure you use my coupon code so that you can get a discount on anything you buy on their site. So I'm going to put this blend together and see if the combination of maceration and infusion actually worked. All right, so we're all proof down to about 43% ABV. Now that all the bubbles are gone, it's still looking nice and perfectly clear. So before we taste this, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my Patreons, all these folks down here. Thank you guys so much for supporting the channel and for following me into the new year. I really appreciate it. I am absolutely grateful for all of your advice and suggestions and your support. You are definitely keeping my lights on. Thank you so much. Let's take a little dip. Yep, clarity's perfect. I'm getting a good kind of mixture of the juniper and several of the other botanicals. The juniper is brighter, more pine than resin, and I think that's just because by accident I managed to only crush about half of the juniper berries, which is I forgot while I was doing it, is actually what you're supposed to do. Crush half your juniper berries and leave half whole. That way you get a good mix. Yeah, it's got a great gin smell. There's some citrus in there. Lime, a little bit of lemon. And I think I'm even picking up some of the other botanicals, maybe some of the dry thyme. But it's got a very bright, fresh kind of aroma to it overall. Really soft mouthfeel. The citrus, I'm getting a lot of citrus on the exhalation. The gin botanicals are really good. I think that's a pretty good mix, actually. Yeah, that's really good. I wish it had a little bit more citrus. So I think maybe I would triple the amount of citrus peels. And I'll go ahead and reflect that down in the recipe. I'll give you the option in the recipe. And you can just make up your mind what you want to do. Now, if you have a gin basket, I think that's going to make things a little different. Since my setup is different and the Liquor Fairy has to hang a little cloth bag just a few inches above the boiling liquid in the still, I don't know if you're going to get as good of extraction from that process as you would if you had a gin basket up in a column. So do I recommend splitting your maceration and your infusion? Yes, because the one thing I'm not getting at all is a cooked citrus kind of flavor, not at all. So that's a variable that I would definitely investigate if I had a column still. But I think if you do, definitely go ahead and try the infusion and the maceration together. But I'm really happy with how this is turning out. As far as gins go, I think this one's much lighter than most of the gins I've ever tried. I'm curious though how it compares to the Moody June, so I'm gonna give that a shot. Oh wow, yeah, the lime is almost fake. It's so much stronger in the Moody June. And I think it's because it was a professional distiller. So I missed the mark. This has a crap ton more lime to it. It's got so much lime to it that it's almost approaching like a margarita because it's so citrus forward, especially on the nose. But the other thing that I'm noticing is that the gin botanicals are way in the background. I think the reason why I liked this gin so much is because it didn't really, in comparison with my gin, mine tastes like gin with some lime in it. This barely tastes like gin. I mean, the gin botanicals are so far in the background compared to the incredible nose of lime that you get with this stuff. It's really good. It's very approachable, especially for gin newbies. And you know, I haven't tasted this stuff in a while. When you start running out of something that they don't make anymore, you leave it in the back of the cabinet and don't touch it. So I think my recipe needs some tinkering if I want to approach what that is. But I'm actually really happy with what I made. I do want more citrus in it. I'm gonna see if I can figure out a couple of ways to add some more citrus to it without messing it up. And if you have any ideas, go ahead and post them in the comments section down below. I would really appreciate it. I've got a couple more projects that I want to try with gin, so look for those coming up. I think now that's confirmation that macerating your botanicals along with infusing your citrus gives you a really good result. It's going to be more citrus forward. So keep that in mind. If that's not the flavor profile you're looking for, just drop your citrus into your maceration. I highly recommend you try this process, your own version of it. And if you've done anything like this before, do me a favor and post it down in the comments section because I'm always looking for new ideas to try out. If you enjoyed this video, if it gave you any sparks in your brain to get you thinking on some projects of your own, do me a favor and hit the like button because it really helps out the channel. If you want to see what kind of crazy shit I'm going to do next time, do me a favor and hit the subscribe button with the bell icon right next to it so that you can get notified when I post new content. Alright, I think that is it. Thanks for watching. Talk at you later.
It's not a game, it's a rich thing.